Welcome to Markets Now. I'm Michelle Rook along with Chip Nellinger, Blue Reef Agri-Marketing. Thursday's market closes. We were lower in hogs, but mixing grains and cattle. And let's start off, Chip, with the wheat market, which scored a key reversal on Wednesday. And we actually did see some follow-through buying on Thursday. So first off, was it all technical, or do you think there was some fundamental push?
Yeah, you can always, put an excuse on something fundamental, and I think if I were going to put that excuse on something, it's two things. It's finally the realization that we're probably far enough along on wheat production in the plains, particularly Kansas, Oklahoma, that rain isn't going to help them anymore, and there's serious problems with that crop. And then the Black Sea grain talks coming up here, some uncertainty as to whether that's going to be, renewed and agreed upon by Russia. But at the heart of it, we just stretched this market way too far to the downside, got the funds overextended with a massive short position in strong technical performance yesterday. We did see some overnight weakness, and the impressive thing to me was that held and we were able to rally. I think the shorts might be, running for cover in here. A strong close tomorrow on a weekly standpoint could spur some additional short covering all of next week into that crop report on the 12th.
Yeah, not only do we have the crop report, but we have Oklahoma production numbers coming in. Those were low, and the Kansas wheat tours coming up. And so the market may need to posture ahead of those things, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And producers out there scratching their head saying, "Man, we've had everything. We've had a 2-year drought. We've had a frost. Lack of rain. With the rain came too late to add insult to injury, and so it's been a really tough haul for producers out in that area, knowing that their crop is shrinking and their yield possibilities are just plummeting. Yet the market
Right.
just goes lower every day. So it's been frustrating. I think finally the market's figuring out that hey, we've got some serious problems, all through the panhandle, in through Oklahoma and Kansas, even parts of Nebraska have been too dry, and that crop isn't coming back at this stage. And I think the market's starting to realize that finally.
All right. Well, it has been a slow realization there. That's for sure, Chip. Now,
It
corn and
has.
soybeans also had reversals yesterday. We didn't see a lot of follow through here today, but the fact that at least we didn't go down and we had a lot of what could have been construed as bearish news, that was actually kind of positive, wasn't it?
It certainly was, and every had every right this morning with some more banking sector fears and just financial market jitters. Had every reason to sell this thing off. They tried to overnight and early. The export sales weren't very good this morning, particularly on corn with the negative numbers because of the cancellations from China. But the market was able to hold that lower number and those lower levels early and reverse and trend up, towards the upper third of the day's range. I think the wheat being higher took some pressure off corn finally. And again, I think the best
Sure.
thing today was we stopped going lower on bearish news. I think that's a good sign that maybe we've gone far enough to the downside for the time being.
Yeah, we call that divergence in the market, and sometimes that's a good thing. What do you think, though, as far as one of the things that we're still dealing with is the demand picture, and of course, exports for corn were a marketing year low this morning, and we have got to see a little bit of demand improvement here for these markets to take off too, don't we?
We do. And, I think the thing quietly, typically this time of year, you'd expect that bean numbers to be negative and not corn, right? With the big crop in South
Right.
America just getting wrapped up. But we haven't seen, any negative weeks on the beans. We're still selling beans in spite of Brazil's big crop. So I think that's a bright sign. We're on pace to hit the number there. Obviously, we don't need to see any more negative numbers on corn going forward. We need to see that demand start picking back up in here and give the bulls a little bit of ammunition to get back in and comfortably on the long side. So that's certainly one thing that's going to be a hindrance here in the short run. We got to see some demand come back into the market. Haven't really talked much about the safrinha corn crop in Brazil. That typically means that they're in pretty good shape, but that crop is certainly not to the finish line yet and still has some time and some risk down there. And we haven't talked much about that in the market going forward here.
No, but it seems like the July contract has been maybe pricing some of that in the corn market. Now, we don't have a lot of weather premium in these new crop contracts, especially for corn, but it would take some big weather problem here to really turn these markets higher, wouldn't it?
Well, it would, and you can argue out there that the extended forecast here in the plains and the western corn belt isn't great. They're going to be having some record high temperatures. It's very dry in Nebraska and south. Western half of Iowa isn't really abundant on rainfall either, and so I don't want to start a drought drum too early, but it's allowing for planting progress to kind of speed up and get kind of a more normal type spring feel to it. But we're certainly going to need some better rains in the Western Corn Belt and that area of Kansas, that kind of eastern area of Kansas that grows the bulk of their corn crop. That is going to be
Yeah.
critical over the next 60 days in here.
Yeah, drought drum. I like that. What about technically yesterday's lows in both corn and soybeans? Those are kind of the lines that we got to hold here now, right?
I do, yeah. I think they're very important across the board. The weekly lows here need to hold. If they can kind of hold into the close tomorrow, especially if you close higher, that might be enough of a strong weekly close to get some funds to continue to come out of some shorts, particularly in the wheat market. If wheat continues higher, that's going to take a lot of pressure off of corn. And then next week you've got the May crop report, and so that could kind of spur some additional short covering as we get into and talk more about that report next week.
Okay. Mixed day in the cattle market. We've been holding up pretty well considering the macroeconomic climate that we're sitting under right now and more bank failures, as you mentioned. But it looks like kind of the seasonal tops are in. So what do you think? We'll just move sideways for a little while or what?
I think sideways, the cash markets seem to be holding together okay. We kind of had this big basis flip here over the last couple of weeks. I think the bright spot there, again, if yesterday, Wednesday's lows hold, we still haven't filled the gap. There's still just a little bit of an open chart gap left in the June contract. I think that's a good sign if it holds and we can rally out of here. And, again, I think people are trying to pick a top. I think there's rightfully, some late longs that probably got, pushed out of the market here on the economic fears. But as long as that gap can stay open and the lows from yesterday hold, I think there's still some potential upside here, especially if the cash market can hold together and maybe put a rally in into the last half of May.
Yeah, I know yesterday when June support was taken out, there was a lot of hedge pressure that started to hit the market too. So maybe we'll get that to ease a bit now. Hog market, boy, we had a nice week last week, but we couldn't see much follow through here this week. So that market just doesn't seem to be able to sustain a rally.
It can't. It's kind of frustrating. We're just stuck in the mud. We can't get the cash market or the cutout to really catch fire here. And it's really starting to
No.
kind of be the time on the calendar where we need to start seeing some strength in here. Seasonally, as you get into June and July, August, you have that summer, summer demand and that summer seasonal kicking in. So we're starting to get to the point where we need to start seeing that cutout and cash rally a little bit. We just haven't seemed to be able to do that just yet. And it really holds back the rallies, allows the sellers to come back in, wait for a rally day like we saw, and then just hammer it lower again because the cash and cutout aren't following.
Yeah, it seems to be just maybe too many numbers in the system right now or too much supply. So we'll watch
Exactly.
that.
And
Thanks so
again,
much for joining us. That's Chip Nellinger, Blue Reef Agri-Marketing, and that's Markets Now.